Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order of the Washington Central Unified Union School District on August 20th at 6:16. Good evening, everybody. As we begin the 2025-2026 school year, I wanted us to pause for a moment and recognize what this moment means. Each new year is a fresh beginning, and even in a world that sometimes feels overwhelming, I know for a lot of us, our schools remain the place of hope, connection, and belonging. So we start this year with the commitment to each of our students to ensure that they have a safe, inclusive, and an academically meaningful education. Public education, as you have heard me say many times, is the cornerstone of our democracy, and it gives every child the opportunity to thrive, to celebrate diversity, and to help shape a more just society. So to our students who are listening, hopefully our board student couldn't be here with us today, but to the students that might be listening to this recording or listening to us, this is your opportunity to learn, to grow, and to lead. Be curious, be kind, and extend a hand of belonging to others. Be the change that you wish to see in the world, and because you'll soon be sitting here instead of us. And every day counts, as we were meeting today, reflecting on that. So to all that have gathered here today virtually, we usually have a bigger audience, so this is, I don't know if it's good or it's bad, but I'm glad some of you were able to join us here. It's truly a privilege for your school board to be together with our communities and our students in this important work. With that, I'm going to do two small adjustments to our agenda. The first adjustment to our agenda is to welcome Tracy Wren, and we're going to move her to be before our presentation, so she'll become number 3, and we'll give her a chance to introduce herself. And then we are also going to have another adjustment in the agenda. If you go to the finance part, the 6.1, we're going to table that item because we needed more information, so just cross that from your board packet. And then we're going to open it up now for public comments. We're going to try to get in the practice after our retreat of reminding people that public comment is an opportunity for the public to make comments directly to the board. The public should not expect a response to their comments. The board's role during public comment is to listen, and the board takes the public comments into consideration as it does its work, always. And the small guidelines for the public comment are: please identify yourself. Comments should be kept to 2 minutes. Comments should be respectful and civil, and comments should be directed to the board or to the board chair. And the school board will respond to public comments at a later meeting, and if appropriate, the board chair will respond to something. But otherwise, the board will determine whether comments made during the public board should become part of a future agenda. With that, are there any public comments today? Anyone in the public? I see a couple of members of the public in her. Okay. No hands at once, twice? Okay, wow. So Tracy, the floor is yours if you don't mind introducing yourself and sharing.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Wren, and I am the consultant who completed, I have to look at the title because it's long, the informal study report on considerations for a possible merger between MRPS and Washington Central. I'm here tonight briefly just to introduce myself and give a live face to the name on the report, and acknowledge that your agenda this evening is very full. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what to expect based on conversations with superintendents, chairs, vice chairs, about how you might begin to digest and develop some common ground about the information in the report and your possible next steps. You have received an email copy of the report, I hope, and there are hard copies of the report available here tonight. It is also going to be made available to the public on both districts' websites after your public meetings tonight. Want to let you know that I met with Montpelier earlier this morning and had an introductory conversation with them. And I'm coming back to see you on September 3rd to engage in a similar process. I want to emphasize that we're working at an introductory stage. And again, the goal is common ground, shared information. And at that time, I'll walk you through the report and speak about some of what I find to be significant highlights, and invite some preliminary initial discussion about your initial impressions. The chairs, vice chairs, superintendents, and I have a scheduled meeting after that, and we will take the feedback from your discussions, and they'll work on plans for next steps based on the direction that comes out of your conversation. The last thing I want to say is that it's wonderful to meet you in person and see faces, even though some may still be virtual. And I really did appreciate the opportunity to learn more about your district, and look forward to seeing you again on the 3rd. That's it.
Thank you, Tracy. I see Patrick has his hand up.
Yeah, just one question. Is the report available online for the public?
It would be available.
Yes, it will be available. We wanted to make, yes, it will be available. We want to make sure that the board got a copy of it, and then we're posting it on the website. Probably tomorrow morning is when it'll be available. On our website, and on Montpelier's posting it on their websites as well.
Thank you.
My name is Chris. How are you? Thanks for coming. Is there any anticipated meeting with both boards in full attendance for the boards to have interaction between themselves as opposed to just chairs and vice chairs?
That's a decision for you to make together, but I can tell you that Montpelier board members discussed that as being a possible next step that they're interested in. So if you have some discussions that suggest that's something you'd like to do as well, I'm sure your chairs, vice chairs, and superintendents will assist with facilitating that.
And to clarify, Chris, the meeting that we're having after is so that we both sides had the feedback from our boards, so that we could make next steps after each board had the chance to look at it. And then it would be with your input that we would be meeting and making decisions.
Well, I'm talking about actually both boards in the same room at the same time.
Correct.
We're doing that?
We would do that after we have an opportunity
Okay.
to discuss if that's the pleasure of both.
You haven't had a chance to
Yes.
have that discussion,
Right.
but I think that's a likely next step, assuming your board identifies that as a possible next step you're all interested in.
Great, thank you.
Daniel?
Welcome. Thanks very much for the report. I guess this question is sort of also directed at you all. What did you foresee Tracy's ongoing involvement in this process being beyond the report and providing sort of clarifying conversations with us? Is that the extent of sort of the contract? And we take it from there? Or I'm just curious about what all happens with next steps and who is involved.
You want me to take that? Okay. So I think our first step was to have the report done, her present it to us, and then we decide what we want our next steps to be. If we would like for her to engage her in additional work, that would be additional. That's outside of the scope of our original agreement with her. That was just to produce the report and give us the information.
And one thing that I can add, Daniel, and for the board to know, is that the next meeting, it would be a combined meeting of the configuration committee and the board, so that both the configuration committee and the board have the ability to listen to Tracy and have that discussion. Okay. All right. Well, good. Anybody online? Diane, Julia? Good? Okay. Natasha? I just don't see everybody. Diane is the only one with a camera on. Sorry, guys. Yeah, there. Okay. Thank you, Tracy. We really appreciate the report and you being here with us. Okay, so we're going to move into the presentations, and we're going to do a little board learning. Do you want to share your screen?
I am. Give me just one moment.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Oops. Let me get to
To the first.
there you go.
So we were going to start today with just, we had a retreat, and then we were going to have just a quick reminder, both for us and for the public, and understanding what the role of the board is. We're going to go through this fairly quickly, and then if you didn't have a chance to click on the board manual, we don't have that on the screen right now, but the board manual has the different pieces where you can get information. It links to how you get to the agenda, links of how, I don't know if you guys had time to look at that one page. That's where all of our information is. We're in the process of updating. There's a couple of things there that the dates need to be updated. But today, we're going to just concentrate on the board role, and then we're going to go into legal and talk a little bit about open meeting law of the couple of new updates, and Stephen is going to do that. So next slide. Yeah. So in here, you can see the key functions of the board so that we can stay at our 30,000-foot view, right? So we envision the future as in the course of the school district, and we create conditions for the students and staff success, hire the superintendent, policy development, and budget development. We've been working hard on creating a policy calendar so that we are hopefully at our next meeting in the beginning of the month, we would have more attendance from more board members working in policy, so we are all more familiar with how we govern through policy. The budget development at the next meeting, the Finance Committee met this week. At this next meeting, we would have an updated budget schedule. We set high expectations for students. We need to be accountable for student learning through adopting and monitoring the system of continuous improvement. And we advocate on behalf of our students and their schools. All of this is things that you can find on both the Vermont School Boards Association website and the National School Boards Association. This is an adaptation of a conference that I went in back in 2023. And Marianne and I adopted it into compressing this, and Stephen and I talked about this today, and one of the things that to me is the most important is the mindset of us as a board, and working together. We discussed that a lot in our retreat, and the approach that we take. We have an obligation to all of the kids in the district, not just, we all represent all of the schools, not just the particular, if you're elected by East Montpelier or Calais. Our responsibility is for the whole of the district. The strategic voice is the values and vision. We work really hard on those educational, the core beliefs, and then that became our strategic plan. So we have to continue to work with that. The strategic voice is like, how do we make our strategic plan our reality, right? And board members' guidance and board guidance and district guidance. We talked in our retreat also about the district quality standards, that we were able to have that presentation, and we will be working on making sure that we are complying with that. And we talked about different ways. So today is just like the start of that accountability, and how we are going to continue to make sure that we are keeping track of the information that we'll be submitting to make sure that we're compliant with the governance standards. And that's part of the accountability, the district accountability, the board accountability, and each of us accountable to each other. We talked a lot about that at our retreat, and for those of you that were not able to be at the retreat, is just how we can help each other in little things as simple as we talked about the time. Like today, I spent a little time saying it's 2 minutes for public comment. Help other board members helping when time comes is just supporting that and not wanting to make it different. That's like a small thing, how we all help each other, keep each other accountable in a nice way. Stephen?
All right. So I'm not going to read all the words on every slide here, but just a reiteration of the essential work of our boards, like creating a vision. We have a vision for our school system. We have a strategic plan. And then our policies that carry out that vision. And we have a work plan around our policy development. So I would say that most of the essential work of the school boards, we have elements of, and what I'm looking forward to in my second year with this board is getting better at this. Just, being able to work more efficiently, being able to make sure that, that we're addressing the things that need to be addressed through policy, and that we're also able to take those pieces and monitor the progress towards that vision, right? So I really see us making sure that, that we put policies into place, we put our goals into place in a way that we can also monitor the outcomes and be able to do that. You can see one of the other essential pieces is hire superintendent to provide leadership and manage the district. I hope that that's not something that we are going to have to do soon, but I'm assuming we're good right this minute. All right, so we also, the budget process and engaging the community and supporting education of students, I think these are all things that we've had discussions about. The budget timeline is going to be out at our next meeting so that we'll be able to see, okay, what's the process we're going to go through this year. Some slight tweaks to it, but overall, it's a very similar process. And then we will, another part of this is monitoring our budget throughout the year to make sure that we're staying on track and we're meeting our goals for all of that. We also make sure that we have any of our legally mandated responsibilities. We have reports and things like that we have to do. But the board itself, you have to remember, you can be a quasi-judicial group as well. So there are things around student concerns that are typically discipline, or they could be something that is appealed from administration based on employment or things like that. So you may sit at sometimes as a judicial board. And of particular note, we enter into collective bargaining again this year, and so this is another one of the legally mandated responsibilities of the board. And so that'll be one of our big pieces of work that we do this year. And then just a reminder, so my job as your superintendent is to carry out your policies, identify those goals and objectives, recommend employment or dismissal as necessary, furnish data to you and to the Agency of Education as requested. And I'm responsible for the general supervision of the public schools, of course, with a team of people that make that happen. But you hire me to make sure that that happens, and I make sure that they do it. And on and on. You know how the ball rolls downhill. It's always good to point out that the duties of the principals, because their role as administrators of the school, they report to me as the superintendent, and their job is essentially the same as carrying out the policies and goals of the school board as well. And so, I think we're all pretty clear on, there's just a hierarchy that we follow for all of this. And I really appreciated this slide, and just kind of a reminder is that the board is setting the goals and the policy, and you're judging whether or not we're meeting that according to your standards. And that's that top, if we're thinking of that as a clock, you're in the top of the clock. And then it's the school districts, myself and the team that we have assembled to make sure that we accurately interpret those policies, and we can clarify that in our discussions between me and the board, that we make sure that we follow the strategic plan, that I delegate those responsibilities. We have a fantastic team of people who carry this work out. And then it's my job to submit the data back to the board for you to be able to see, are we meeting the goals that we have set for ourselves? And this is where I hope to show a lot more improvement in terms of just regular data, regular pieces to you as a board, so that you can see how are we doing on a regular basis and what are those measures. I would ask of you as a board, like, if there are measures that you think would be important for us to look at, if there's something that is of interest, like making sure that, that you send that information to me. And I just ask, like, send it to the chair and myself long before a board meeting so that we can try to have that data for you. So that you're not asking at a board meeting that then has to wait and wait and wait. And so that's what I would just ask as a, we can possibly get you the information sooner in that case. Yeah. And so, any questions about all that? We've been over this before. This is available in the packet as well.
Quiet board today.
All right.
All right.
All right, so I'm going to stop that share. And let me get to, I just wanted to quickly review the open meeting law, a couple of things about that. And I know Flora said the changes were beginning of July 1st of last year.
Can you-
Yep, and I'm about to share.
The share, yeah, good.
Yep, so just so you know that that's what we're doing, just a reminder of some of our pieces here. All right, so there is a training video that I linked on this slides. So if you go to these, it's a couple of clicks through the agenda, but the Secretary of State training video is there if you want to watch some thrilling information about open meeting law. Just a reminder that we have regular meetings, special meetings, and emergency meetings are all available to us. This is a regular meeting of the board. We can call a special meeting with 24 hours advance notice. And then emergency meetings is if there was something unforeseen. And we just had to quickly gather. Those are allowed, but you have to give public notice as soon as possible on any of these. Remember that a meeting is defined as a quorum of the members of the school board gathered for the purpose of discussing business of the board. So if 8 of you were to end up at the same concert, that's okay, as long as you don't discuss any school business during that time. And so but we can't meet without a quorum to actually conduct the business of the board. And then executive session is a part of any of these meetings, and that's not open to the public. They're very specific about what we can do in executive session. The board has to decide to go into and vote to go into executive session, and the board decides who joins them in that executive session. Deliberations are confidential during that time, and the motion indicating the nature of the business to be discussed and a positive vote by the majority of the board members are required for you to go into executive session. So negotiations are going to be something that we do. You can go into an executive session to discuss negotiations. You just have to be clear that that's what you're going into the executive session for, and a majority of the board members have to vote in favor of that. You cannot do a binding action during the executive session, but you can, you return to the open meeting before that decision is made. And things like contracts, labor relations agreements, mediation or grievances, employment or evaluation of an employee, or student discipline are permissible subjects for an executive session. So, for example, we can go into executive session to discuss my evaluation.
You note here that there are a few exceptions, certain exceptions for binding action in executive session. Do you have an idea what they are?
I am not, I'd have to look and see what those few exceptions are. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure about those. Just make a note of that. All right. All right, so electronic communications. You can receive your board packets, solicit opinions and feedback from citizens, and share information with another board member or administration, but not with a quorum of the board. So that's where we say, if you're going to email the board, no. Send that to the board chair, the superintendent, and we can distribute things if necessary to the board, but don't share information with each other in electronic form. We can arrange meeting times and logistical details, all of that's quite all right, but you can't conduct business of the board electronically. is what we want to be. So we also caution you against sharing any confidential materials, and you can't convene a quorum of the board to vote on an issue unless open meeting law requirements have been followed. We can have a virtual meeting, right? So, but we must warn it and be able to carry through with all of those pieces of the meeting rules. Here's where I would also throw a caution out. If during a meeting you are emailing or texting, not that anybody has ever done that during a meeting, but if you do, that is subject to records request under open meeting laws. So even if you are not texting somebody on this board, you are in an open forum at that point in time, and your records can be requested during that time. So I just caution folks in that regard. So just to be careful, your phone, if you're using it during the meeting, you can have a records request for the information on your phone during that time period. So, yeah, Patrick.
Same for a laptop?
Anything that you are using to communicate, you can keep notes for yourself that are not, but if you are sharing information electronically, if you were to pass a note, that is then shared and can be requested at that point in time.
Does that for information related to the board meeting, as opposed to, I'll get milk on the way home?
So here's.
Or is it anything?
So they can request all the things that you produced during that meeting, even if it was just your grocery list and say, Zach, can you pick up milk on the way? They can request that. It's probably not information they cared about, but we just want to be careful that when we do share a note, that's when it can become discoverable, really, in the meeting.
So is it advised that we stick to breaks to text our loved ones then?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yes,
can-
so if
yeah.
you needed to text somebody at home, yes, take it during a break. And here's the thing, is if you had to do it during a meeting, just know that whatever you've texted could be requested. So, I mean, if it's just pick up milk, you might just still go ahead and say that. But I just want you to be aware that those records are available. And that includes myself as well. So it's any of us that are doing that during the meeting. So, as it says there, do not communicate anything using email or text if you would not share it in the open meeting. Yes, Dan?
Just to save you a little time, Stephen, I looked it up. The only example that the Vermont League of Cities and Towns gives is action you can take in executive session, the securing of real estate options.
Oh. Oh, there you go. So if we're buying real estate, or selling, yep. All right, so just as a reminder, the public record law is that we're in a democracy and people have a right to know what their government has done, and more importantly, why public decisions have been made. So that's why the public has a right to inspect all public records. That does not include draft documents that we're working on. That includes final documents. So we have the right to work on things that we don't have to disclose until we provide it to the public as a whole. And so that's all written and recorded material regardless of their physical form. So that's videos, things like that. So information that we should consider confidential are personnel issues, any lawsuits, civil actions, or legal matters like that, negotiations related to collective bargaining, academic records of individual students and individual student discipline records, anything that is related to an individual special education record, an IEP, or information related to those plans. That's generally why we would go into an executive session, is to have a discussion about those topics. But we want to refrain from any of those topics in open session as well. We don't want to disclose confidential information. Right? And then as board members, you are, your power comes from the membership, right? So not as an individual. So you can't personally influence the work of staff, student placement, bus routes, sports team management, any of those kinds of things as an individual. And so in a number of areas, this is that quasi-judicial part, around personnel issues or student-specific concerns, you serve in that quasi-judicial role to resolve disputes if they are appealed after actions by administrators. And specifically around expulsions, only the board can expel a student. And so board member must come to the meeting unbiased by prior information. And any actual or perceived conflict of interest. So just attend to, you need to attend to the needs of students and taxpayers and not yourself. I would say that this board does you do a good job of that, so I appreciate that. And the reminder that your board member hat is never off, even when you think it is. Limit your board business discussions to the board meetings, and if you learn about it in an executive session, it is confidential until it is discussed in a public session. And you do not have authority as an individual board member, but your actions can still get you in challenging situations. So just a reminder. When in doubt, call your board chair or the superintendent about any of these issues. And I will say that even as superintendent, I realize that anytime I'm out in public, I'm still the superintendent. I don't get to be just an average citizen most of the time. That's why I wear a hat and sunglasses when I attend concerts, so that even the board members don't recognize me.
Try harder next time.
Yes, I was. But I do, just remember that you're a representative of your communities, and people are always looking to you for as a board member. And I would just say, and thank you for taking on that role. It's not always easy. A couple of things, just as the open meeting laws did have some changes with Act 133 beginning in July 1st of 2024. And this was really codifying a lot of the things that came out of COVID around hybrid meetings and virtual meetings. But it also, the area that, and we've had this discussion, is that as a board, you are an advisory board, right? No, you're a non-advisory board. And so you have supervision, control, or jurisdiction over things like, they say legislative, quasi-judicial, tax, or budgetary matters. So you are a non-advisory board. Our committees are advisory boards. They recommend things to the board. And so there is some language about what a non-advisory board can do and what an advisory board can do. We can only authorize remote-only meeting for the advisory public bodies, and there's still public participation. You can, as a non-advisory board, have a virtual meeting. You just have to provide a physical space for someone to attend should they wish to. And so an advisory board does not have to provide that. Now, we typically will figure out if somebody needs to attend a meeting. We typically make that possible because we want people to be able to participate. But just so you know, those are the two big pieces. All of the other pieces around this is making sure that you post your minutes, and all of that still pertains. The non-advisory bodies need to electronically record meetings and post the recordings in a designated space, right? And so we have Orca. We really appreciate that they're recording our meetings and posting them in a space that can be accessed. It also doesn't say video, it's just recording, so it could be an audio recording. You're not required to do video recording of the advisory meetings. And so our committees, while we record them sometimes to make sure that we have accurate minutes, we do not by practice try to post every one of our advisory committees because we don't have the ability to turn that around and do that very easily. So we're not required for the advisory committees to be posted electronically, just the non-advisory. And then we have to make sure that we have on our website a procedure for filing a complaint about open meeting law. We have that, and we make sure that we maintain that. And chairs and local chairs also need to make sure that they do a training annually on this.
And
So
and
I think it's
superintendents.
the video as
Yeah.
well, and
Yeah.
this.
And I went to that conference, but a couple of things just to clarify. We can't call it electronic meeting, and so it's, when we do our meetings, they have to be hybrid, is what they're called. We are not allowed to meet, in essence.
Correct,
We have to have a hybrid meeting, and then it is both visual and audio that we unfortunately have to should be posted within 30 days. One thing that we do, because we have, and there's members of the public here, and I want to make sure that they know that, and that they have requested, our committee meetings, even though it doesn't require us to record it, in the case that somebody does need a recording, they just request it, and we share it. We don't have the ability to keep all of our meetings. I'm looking at Spencer too, because we have limited amount of storage too that we can have. But when needed, we have shared, for example, I don't know, the configuration committee meetings. You know, like we share those, we keep those recordings, and we do share it if people request it, even though we're not
posting it.
And we're not, yeah. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Questions about open meeting law?
Oh, there was a question in the chat. Is there anything?
I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Oh, no, yeah, it was just because they were not able to see the slides, but then we put them up. So, yeah, I did
Oh, yeah.
see that. That was from Julia. And this is just the beginning of our learning together. We did talk at our retreat, and we haven't forgotten about that we want to talk about Robert rules, too. So that would be our next learning. And then take a minute to go through that page, the board manual, and just as a reminder, visit the different pieces, and then we'll talk about more board learning in a minute. Right now, we're going to move into reports unless there's questions, and then we're going to invite Julia and Jen.
Yeah.
Julia, going
Julia
to get us
Pritchard.
started?
Yep.
And we'll also have time for questions, and separately, we're going to do the early education, so we're going to go through all of it. Julia, you got that.
Good evening. I'm excited to inform the board that this summer, the Special Education Department joined the annual tradition that Jen has been hosting for many years of Curriculum Camp. And so we had a 2-day retreat with our special educators. There were, I think, 13 of us total to focus on special education for the coming year. As an outcome of that, we developed a shared vision statement to help motivate and inspire and unite us in our effort to support our students with disabilities. We understand that it's separate from the Washington Central vision statement, but we felt we needed our own to really guide and ground our work in the coming 2 days. We connected with Montpelier School District, a kind of nice follow-up to Tracy's comment, who had developed a special education handbook to support consistency of practice and effective practices for special educators, and we took that as a starting point. We modified it to meet the needs of our Washington Central School District and team, and we are going to start this year with a handbook for all of our special educators to help guide our practices and consistency in the way we work together and how we support our students. We also left with a strong development or a starting point for professional development modules we're going to work on in the coming year. We had 3 areas we decided together through a thoughtful process that we wanted to focus on in the coming year. One is guidelines for service minutes, frequency, and equity of service for students with disabilities in our district. As you know, we have 5 elementary schools and a middle high school, and we're observing that we would like to just develop more consistency in the way that we make those decisions. We want to focus on evidence-based instructional methods and practices in the coming year. And we also want to talk about the role of specialized instruction. With Act 173, it's allowed for students with disabilities to receive services from interventionists. It doesn't only need to be from a special educator. And at times it's kind of left us with a bit of an identity crisis. What is our role? If we have a great math interventionist who can provide the service, then what is the role of special educator? And we want to dig into that and make sure that we better understand how we can most effectively support students in those circumstances and utilize the most informed and knowledgeable provider for our student services. And lastly, we're excited that we are relabeling and organizing all of our educational records across our buildings to make sure that we have consistency of practice and best practice there too. So excited to report out. It was a fun 2 days.
Thank you. Juliet, do you mind introducing yourself just for people, as
Of course.
this will be a record of your title and...
Yeah, thank you. My name is Julia Pritchard. I'm the Director of Student Support Services for the Washington Central School District. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Miller-Arson. I'm the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. And we've been doing curriculum camp for a long time, and I feel like it just gets better and better with more experience under our belts. This summer was amazing. We were super productive. We had a lot of sessions. One session, our first session, was focused on elementary global citizenship as a way to continue to build units of study to be implemented across the district and pull together aspects of the education quality standards and that you learned about at your board retreat, and trauma-informed practices and universal design for learning. We were a small group, and we got some work done, some good work done, and we have more work to do. So that project remains ongoing. We had another session led by Ellen Dorsey, our instructional coach, really focusing on middle school planning and interventions for supports for students. So that work was done by a small team of middle school educators, and that was super productive. They're feeling really ready to launch the year strongly. And then the last 3 sessions that we had were directly connected to the strategic plan, and they were a product of sort of curriculum council's recommendation and the leadership team's recommendation. So you know, in the strategic plan, one of our goals is to develop a professional learning plan for all of our staff. And we had identified 3 areas for growth in that area in the strategic plan. One is the science of writing. So you have heard a bit about Act 139, which is Vermont's K-3 literacy bill, and the professional learning related to Act 139 and the science of reading. There's also been a lot of change in writing in recent years, and we wanted to make sure that our all of our teachers of writing in the elementary schools have some high-quality professional learning. So we developed a learning plan for science of writing. We also, with transferable skills, Julia mentioned Act 173 and eligibility for specialized instruction, and we had some work to do for functional skills as well. And we focused on, mostly for this area, social emotional learning, again, connected to the strategic plan, our implementation of a screener, and really thinking through effective practices in the explicit teaching of functional skills. And then the third body of work is related to the new education quality standards that went into effect on July 1st. And you all benefited from Natasha's expertise there, and we did as well. Natasha joined us for curriculum camp, really grounding us in the why behind the new EQS, so that then we could develop professional learning plans for the really the first semester are the modules that we created. That was curriculum camp work. In addition, we've got some ongoing work to do for the science of reading as part of the PD plan, just based on some legislative imperatives. So we're working on figuring that out in terms of our implementation. And then we had committed, and this is again in the strategic plan, to do work focused on universal design for learning. And so a small team of administrators who've done a lot of PD related to that figured out that plan as well. The principals have been working really hard on identifying times during the year for some job-embedded professional learning, sometimes on Wednesday afternoons, sometimes on in-service days, and sometimes as part of job-embedded PD, especially in the elementary schedules. And so we've been spending some time taking all of that work from curriculum camp and the sort of summer imperatives and mapping that out over the course of the year, so that some of it was more time sensitive than others, but we have a good plan, and I'm just grateful for all of the teachers who stepped up to do curriculum camp this summer. It can't happen without teachers, and the summer was short this summer in particular. We scheduled it in a way so that it didn't create a scheduling conflict with the extended school year services. That was a request that we had, so that we would eliminate that barrier for participation. So there weren't that many days. We did a lot of work, and I'm really psyched to implement it. Questions? Daniel?
I'm curious if, as an aspect of your professional learning plans for this year, you've thought about the possibility or possible need for middle school licensure and increasing the number of faculty who might need middle school licensure in future academic years, and whether there's space for that kind of planning. Not that it's a foregone conclusion by any means, but if we were to go the route of an expanded middle school model.
I know that there have been some teachers and administrators who've been thinking about that, but that was not the focus of curriculum camp sessions this summer. Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
Any other questions, board members? Thank you, Jen. That's wonderful. And thank you, Juliet, too. Now we're gonna move into pre-K.
Yes, so I just wanted to make sure that I pointed out, I gave a memo from our first pre-K task force meeting. We met on July 25th, really just looking at the landscape that we had, putting the committee together. There's a variety of people on it. Diane being your board representative, who brings a tremendous amount of expertise to us, and we appreciate that. And so you can see that information there. What I wanted to share is we met Monday as well. I just had to have a board packet before we met. But I wanted to point out a few things. From our first meeting, we determined that a survey of families, and you may have seen that come out on Front Porch Forum, we had 62 responses to that survey. That's a pretty good response rate for this. So people are very interested in this. I think that goes without saying. But I just wanted to highlight a few of the key takeaways. We'll give you a better report in the future, but I just wanted to point out a couple of things that we saw as a committee that were some key takeaways. And Diane, I would just say if there's something that I missed, chime in, please. Currently, of the 62 responses, the current school or childcare, the big three they're at home. 34% of them are at home with a parent or guardian. 31% of them are in a private pre-K, and 27% of them are in a licensed home daycare. So some of these students, the people that answer these, their children aren't in pre-K or eligible for pre-K yet. It was very clear from the survey that families need full day care every day of the week during the school year. It was super clear. Not a surprise, but it was really nice to see that was exactly what people were looking for. And we also asked a question about programming. What kind of programming would you like for your child to be engaged in? They were able to pick a couple of choices in this area, but 91% of them responded that they want an outdoor or nature-based learning program. 74% of the respondents want some kind of play-based learning. 37% responded they want a Montessori approach, and 37% want a bilingual or language immersion program. So they were able to pick two of these categories. Those were the top four. From there, it was pretty evenly divided amongst other options that were there. And what was most important to families was quality of teaching and staff, the proximity to home, and the hours of available care, in that order. And so those were what was most important to them. And we also asked, what were your barriers to access? And that was availability and wait list was the number one there, cost, scheduling conflicts, and then transportation. Those were your top four there. Transportation was lower, but it still was significant than the other three. And so those were some of the key takeaways. Diane, did I miss anything from our key takeaways? I think those were the big ones we discussed.
I think those were definitely the big ones that we discussed, as well as it framed up things that made us realize, oh, do we need to ask more specific toward any of those to gather the real detailed, so that we made sure we understood the response.
Yeah. And another thing that stood out that we asked, where did you get your information about this? Word of mouth and friends was the number one. Front Porch Forum was next on the list. And so that was interesting to see, but not a surprise that people talk about where childcare is and keep it a secret if they know. Yeah. Yeah, Daniel?
Has the task force uncovered or found any, like, school district sponsored or school district managed full-time daycare, or, excuse me, slip of the tongue, pre-K programs in the state to, like, compare?
So we're lucky we have Rebecca Webb as our regional coordinator for pre-K services that are outside of each of the schools, but she does a lot of work. She's on our committee with us. So we asked her to bring, like, what's out there. There is no rhyme or reason to the way the programs, if I could say that there was a consistent thing across our region, I would be lying. Everybody does it slightly different. What days, how many hours, what times during the day, which days of the week they do. So we were really looking to see what's available in our region. There's nothing quite like that. White River Valley has some programming that is close to that as anybody. And so we, as a task force, we had a pretty good discussion about what might our programming look like. And our next meeting is going to be what would we like to see? And so we're going to start putting together a proposal of what might meet the needs of our families in particular, and what that might look like both programmatically and budgetarily as well and all. Diane?
Yeah, and just to highlight too, Daniel, to your question as well, is it's why there was, before this other law that came into place, there was the implementation team that was looking at universal pre-K and the potential transition of all 4-year-olds in schools. This highlights that schools don't, it's a challenge for schools to have capacity for that, as well as space. And so what you're seeing and what Stephen has just said is that's how it gets reflected in the towns and communities doing what they can in the buildings and with the capacity they have.
Are you saying we as a district had capacity problems, or statewide there was a lot of that?
Statewide.
Got it.
Yeah, just as a reminder, the state only funds
Yeah.
10 hours of pre-K services per week. And so districts that opt to go more than 10 hours, that's a part of their general operating budget, or if they're able to get some kind of grants. But general operating budget is where most of it occurs. And so, yeah, so I would say it's a powerful little group of people who are very committed to what would be best for our kids in our community. And so we look forward to bringing the board probably, I would say late September or early October, but ahead of the budget season, so that we can include it in our discussions around that, because it will have budgetary implications if we are to change our programming.
Seth?
Just a comment I wanted to make, as I was talking to various people over the summer, this is pretty heavily concentrated in Middlesex. I was surprised by how many people who didn't have kids also wanted to talk about childcare.
Yeah.
This is a thing that came up with people who, whose kids are long past childcare, who may have been involved with a school board in the past, but aren't done with childcare right now. Still wanted to talk about this issue and still saw it as a priority.
Yeah, oh, and I would just say, the responses were, the 62 responses were generally represented across all towns. So we didn't have one town that outweighed others. They were generally about the same response rate on all of those, which was really nice. We also had a whole comment section, so there are a lot of comments. I won't bring those specifically here, but we'll thematize those when we give a better report on this. Just like I said, this was just Monday evening when we met to discuss this.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. We're going to move now into Configuration Committee update. The Configuration Committee, as you know, we didn't meet today. We're going to meet on September 3rd, and like I said, take advantage of the report now being out and have a combined Configuration Committee meeting and board meeting, and you'll hear more about that when we have the agenda. So that's the report we have for right now, but the work continues. Now, moving into a community schools report. You guys had a report in your packet, and we're working really hard on growing community in many ways throughout the district this fall. And there was a post on Facebook, if you guys could repost that post from the Washington Central area, would be great. There's a lot happening in that community learning series this September, all the Wednesdays of September from 6 to 8 p.m. So you're coming together for a free multi-generational learning opportunity, and it's open to anybody in the Washington Central Unified Union School District. And the classes showcase, I'm reading from a little bit that Beck shared with us, showcase the talents and the expertise of local instructors. So from anything from bike repair to Shelley's going to be teaching a class on boyhood. I forget the name right now. But I saw it in that list and I was just clicking in there. There's dance, there's chainsaw sharpening. There is a class really for everyone. So unfortunately, you guys would be in meetings in 2 of those classes. Yeah, I know, sad faces, but especially that September 6th. But one of the biggest celebrations, and everybody to mark the date, would be September 9th at 6 p.m. is the Flynn, and it would be at the playing fields here at U32. And it's free, and there's gonna be a lot. Do you want to share a little bit of the busing and stuff?
Yeah, so free, open to the public, but we're also working on transportation from the elementary schools to make sure that, because if there's a lot of people that come, we would need to help with the congestion, and also making sure people had an opportunity to come if they couldn't easily get here on their own. So there's going to be information coming out about the transportation from Beck to Zan on all of that. And we want people to come out. If you've ever seen, they're doing, I think it was 12 performances, something like that, in a very short amount of time. But it looks truly outstanding. If you've seen the videos from past pieces, it looks.
It's a combination of theater and circus, and they're going to have giant giraffes, and I think it'll be very exciting. So if you can go, that would be great. Bring your family.
Friends, neighbors, everybody.
And a foldable chair. And then the other thing was to save the date for a free meal on Thursday, September 25th at 5:30 p.m. at U32. And it would be just conversation and being together in community. So that's another opportunity. As long as you don't talk board business, we can all be together. That's the report from the community schools report, and just publicly.
Just a reminder,
really.
register if you'd like to join the Wednesday night, so public as well, register if you want to do that. There was also an updated calendar of events that was over here to the side, and we'll get that posted on the website as well for all of those back-to-school events that are happening in September and early October.
Yeah. And I just want to thank Beck, our community schools coordinator. She's been working really hard on this, and we are thrilled to start the year celebrating our communities. Okay, with that, Patrick, Center of Vermont Career Center report.
Yeah, so the Career Center has had a busy summer. There's a lot going on with the new building. And so most of what I want to say to the board is about that project. So there is a bond vote coming in November for a new building in Graniteville, up the hill from the Rock of Ages quarry. The building, they've done a wetlands survey with the specific architectural drawings, and they've had to make a few adjustments, but they think with a little bit of creativity, they can make the building work with the plot of land that they've chosen. They've also been doing traffic studies and things like that. So things are moving along with the new building for the Career Center. The bottom line is about $150 million, depending on if the board decides to include a gymnasium in the project. And that shakes out the first estimate, or the estimate that the business manager has for what that means for taxpayers, is it shakes out to about $290 per year for a $300,000 home. And that's an average number for the whole feeder area to the Career Center, so it wouldn't be the same everywhere, but that's kind of the average. Those numbers will fluctuate a bit depending on what the final cost estimate is before the paperwork is due for the bond vote. But that's what the Career Center is going to ask of the community to pony up for a new building. I'm happy to, I'm going to take a couple minutes to take questions if you have them. But they're moving forward, and they're working with a marketing team to come up with a really thoughtful campaign to make sure that people know that there's a vote happening in November, and to get out support for the new Career Center.
And yeah, and that committee met today, the facilities committee met today with the marketing team to look at that and just the core message, and just like a remind, the November date is November 4th, so put it in your calendars, and and just like really coming up with the most frequently asked questions, and also coming up with like what we're calling the urgent takeaways, so that it is for everybody really, and is really to support all of our students, and a reminder that not, the space can't be fixed. We are sending away about 150 students every year that would like to go to the Career Center. So it's really an investment on Central Vermont, not just on the career, in our workforce and our way of living. So, and you have a question for Patrick.
I do have a question. I'm going to speak into my microphone, so I can't look at you, sorry. With the changes they made because of the wetland survey, did it make significant impacts to the designs that they had shared at previous public meetings, or did they just shift the building?
No, so they shifted where the driveway goes a little bit, and they shifted where the parking lot is a little bit, but the building stayed where in that kind of eastern side.
Awesome.
Any other, Chris, do you have a question?
I do. Patrick, with the buildings could be significantly bigger than what they have tomorrow. Is that going to translate into a programmatic shift for the Career Center? And if it is, how?
So all the current instructors were consulted on layout for the building, and the plan is to one-for-one transfer what's happening now in the current space to the new building, but with flexibility for changes in the future. And so the expectation is that there'd be expansion in programs given community need, and a simple expansion could just be more people, more students in the current program offerings, but just more multiple versions of each kind of classroom. And then if there was community need for for new programs and student interest, then they could expand into different areas.
Is there an expectation that students would go to the vocational center and just stay there, as opposed to transferring back and forth between, I guess, home schools and going to the vocational center? So
the question about the gymnasium it kind of gets to that point. There's a desire to have the building be flexible for all day school, and so that would be go to the CTE for full day. And not have to bus back and forth, but that is just an option on the table. It's not necessarily the only way forward.
Is there a point in time when that option will Is there a point in time when that option will be exercised or discarded?
I think the board needs to vote on the final package next month to get everything ready for the bond vote.
Okay, thank you.
Michaelan?
I don't know if this is a premature question, but can someone comment on the implications that the expansion in numbers and the potential full day would have on programming here at U32?
So my understanding is it would be just shy of 500 students is what the building is being built.
500, yeah.
Yeah, just right around 500 students for the Career Center, which is an expansion of their programming. They only have about 250, 260, yeah, that's what I was thinking. And so we could have more additional students who attended the program as a result of them being able to offer more seats. If it were a full-day program, it would change some of our programming students come back here and take a few classes with us. But for the most part, they get most of their work at the Career Center. It's just 1 or 2 classes that they take with us. So huge impact, no, other than more kids going. And so, I mean, we're in favor of having a Career Center that is state-of-the-art. So we'll make the necessary changes here.
Daniel?
I guess I just wanted to follow up on that, because I've heard anecdotally, and I know the danger of anecdotes, but anecdotally, like, people having sort of a less than full day of learning because of the transitions
Yeah,
back
yeah,
and
yeah.
forth. So I'm curious sort of if we have, as a district, an opinion on the best outcome for students, whether it be full-time in this school, full-time at the Career Center, or split here and there.
So administration's opinion is that a full-day program would benefit the kids. And so I know it really depends upon what they're able to do as a board to get the funding to
Yeah.
build for their full-day program. But we've been in favor of a full-day program for quite some time.
Yep. Actually, that approach kind of generated IU32 through Jody and Stephen. You know, we've seen that, you know, it's really disruptive for the students to come back to school, and they lose a lot of time coming back and forth too. But, you know, and it's a balance, right? Because we also want to have the Career Center be able to serve all students, and it'd be another opportunity for graduation. And we also want to be able to have more students in middle school. You know, there's a lot of things that we're not able to do yet because of how we work, but there's a lot of things that we can do here before. So I don't know, and how we engage our students too, but.
I would say one thing to always think about the Career Center is just like any of our other pathways, right?
Pathways,
So
too.
we want multiple pathways for students to be able to move through the system so that they can learn what they need to learn, be able to plan for their future, being able to do all those kinds of things. And so the Career Center is one very good option. For those of us who want plumbers and electricians and all of those, it's an excellent option for us. And so we want kids to be able to find the pathway that suits them and be able to do that pathway.
So is there a sense as to how many students we lose from U32? If it became full day? And I think there are a lot of benefits to full day, just in terms of lost learning time from
So
transportation.
we're gonna give an enrollment report coming up in one of the next couple of meetings that'll let you see how many students are currently attending the Career Centers. We just want to make sure the numbers, you know, as we started the year, were accurate. And so that'll give you an idea of the percentage of kids who attend. My assumption would be that if it's a bigger place and they can accept more kids, we would have a few more kids go.
Right, okay. And you, just let me follow up on one. In terms of, because Career Center serves a number of different districts.
6
right?
districts. Yeah.
If there is more interest than space, even at 500, how is that, how are the students selected? Is it by lottery at some point in time, or?
No, there's a selection process that the Career Center follows in terms of identifying which kids are attending there. So they do interviews and academic reviews to make sure that who they accept are ready for those programs as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
And just to add to that,
Well, yeah.
it's a multi-tiered system, Chris, so the kids will have a couple of different rounds of applications, and if you don't get into your first choice, then there's a second round to try for your second choice or your third choice.
I've got 2 now, but when you say first choice, second choice, different programs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I was wondering, with those enrollment numbers, we must have an idea of how many students apply versus how many students are accepted, correct?
Yeah,
So
we-
that would give us an idea of how many students we have that are interested, that currently can't get into the programming that they want or need, that meets their educational needs and their flexible pathway needs.
Yeah, and we know generally that within our 6 districts, we right now have, you know, we have the ability to take about 250, 255, and just last year, you know, almost 200 kids, but really the numbers were like 155. They were not able to take at the Career Center. And so if you divide that by 6, that could give you some, oh, what is Chris doing? Are you behaving yourself, Mr. Chris? Okay. So moving right along, oh, Daniel.
Sorry. I think that regardless of the potential adverse effect on our enrollment, it's a good idea. And I guess I'm curious, Patrick, if you think like a resolution by this board is helpful for you in the process of deliberation on the Career Center board to advocate for that, if others agree with that as well.
I think that'd be really helpful. I get the sense of the conversation right now, but if there's a more formal way to do that, that'd be really helpful for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can talk about that at a future meeting and in a way that we can.
Well, I'm not sure we have a future meeting before they are finalizing their budget for instance, the gymnasium.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming up. I don't
Yeah.
remember the.
It's the second week, so September, yeah, you're right. It's the second week. And I think we could put our support without saying vote yes on the bond vote, right?
Like a resolution in support. So I guess I would move then that this board resolves to support like full-day academic programming at the Central Vermont Career Center and facilities that support said programming.
Moved by Daniel, second by
Second.
Zach. It's okay. Okay. And then the only thing is that maybe we do it down further below because this part was just reports and we didn't warn it as action, but should it be okay if we do it?
I think a
Below.
resolution is okay.
Okay.
As long as
Right.
it doesn't, as long as you're not holding us to some kind of contract or
I have,
monetary.
I just didn't know if we wanted to have a written version of a resolution ready for our September 3rd meeting, which we could then affirm that resolution, and then it would be on the agenda as a decision item.
Yeah, I think that would be better both for the public and for us.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
And then on your to-do list.
So your Robert's rules would be you table this till
Just
the
table-
September
Yeah,
3rd?
just wait. Yeah,
Sounds good.
okay.
What, you would have
We're
to actually
table-
say?
Yeah,
that.
so
Yeah,
can
you
you
have to do
withdraw
I
the,
formally withdraw my motion.
thank you,
I'll agree to that.
thank you.
Thank you.
That's different than tabling, but-
Yeah, we can't quite table because it was not warned, so
No
it should
worries.
be withdrawn, sorry.
Thanks, everyone.
Technicalities.
We're good.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Patrick. Okay, the next one is the VSBA report. You all got your email just yesterday, and then you update. The three things that I wanted to highlight is the conference coming up on October 29th. It starts in the afternoon, and October 30th is the full day. I am looking for volunteers so that we can, it would be awesome if more of you, it's now in Burlington, so it's a little bit closer than going to Lake Maury. So if you could get back to me or for a raise of hands right now, if there's enough people that want to go. Ursula, Zach, Stephen, and I, okay.
What was the date again? I'm sorry.
It's the October 29th and 30th. So October 29th is a half day, and October 30th is the full day. So the Wednesday, October 29th starts at 3 p.m. and is the pre-conference workshop is about grade boards. The time is now. It's going to be really good. And then there's a dinner after that, and then Thursday, that link is in your packet, not in your packet, this one, but in your update from BSBA. And on Thursday, October 30th, is the Power of Partnership. So it's really a round table, and it's how superintendent and a board or board members partner with their superintendent. So it's really a good workshop for us as a district, if you guys can do it. If you're interested in it, we can just email Stephen and myself, and we will let and copy Melissa so that she can register you.
We should give them a deadline.
And a deadline of tomorrow. No, just kidding. Like if we register early is easier, but I don't remember right now, but like it would be nice to be able to register by the middle of September at the latest, but September 1st would be great. So that we have an idea of who's coming. So we have one.
I was going to say that I also highlighted in the Colt report that, you know, the VSBA is putting out a lot of information about the changes that are happening right now. I'm going to try to do a legislative update for how it affects us as we're moving forward, but I'm not going to rehash all of the stuff that's in the VSBA report for you, but just also, the biggest thing happening right now is the school district redistricting task force. And so those dates are there, and they have a website that's a link to in the Colt report for you. But just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, and and that's good. The task force met yesterday in Waterbury. Again, I was not able to go to yesterday's meeting. I went to the first one, but not able to go yesterday. But mostly what they talked about was like they had a lot of correspondence from the public, and the high level takeaways were from the template that had been shared, which we shared at the last meeting of proposing districts. There was a talk, and they had an example by Hawaii. You can see all of that in the link of, and now there's also a video, and you can even click on what Stephen put in his report. You can Google that little part. And then Jay Nichols, who's now the chair of the Commission for the Future of Public Education, came to the meeting and did a presentation on how they can ensure that there was a good public participation and what protocols are they going to use. That's where we come in, when we would be able to share what the board as a whole thinks of this whole thing. We are going to wait until we have the report from, we're able to spend some time with Tracy too, because the report is one thing, as we talked with Stephen and Ursula Montpelier, that we can use for advocacy that really showcase things about us. And then the other part of the meeting was mostly about streaming the platform. They're hiring a consultant also, so that is what is there for that. In the update, sort of now moving to the national level, as you know, there's a lot going on, and really the secretary is trying to return education to the 50 states. There's a little article there. We've been working really hard also in trying to make sure that vouchers is not a reality for our districts. The governors are going to have the ability to decide that, because there's a public fund now that could be used. We're hoping that that's not going to be the case for Vermont. And then the State Board of Education met, and they talked about the state of the school construction advisory aid. And then there's a new advisory board that the AOE has created, and we nominated David Epstein, which some of you are familiar with from Truex and Collins. We actually nominated 3 people, but David Epstein, Bill Ford, that works for us, and John Hemmergan to be part of the advisory board to the new rules that are being created for people to have access. We would be impacted too, because depending on what our mitigation that we have to do or not to do, we might need some funding. So they are going to be working on what the task. I don't have the whole thing in front of me, but just something for you guys to be aware to. And mostly just the take a look at, there's a couple of other webinars coming in. The most important that I would say is September 11 is our, we'll walk through resolutions. We had a resolutions meeting just last week, and the board approved the recommendations from the resolutions committee, and that's how we govern. I'm looking at you, Chris. So that is a great webinar to attend, because it just really shows you how, we make decisions. And then the regional meetings are going to be happening in October, and they are going to be centered. We're the 2 vice chair. There's the 2 co-chairs of the task force for redistricting are coming to that meeting, so that is another place where you can express your input to them. They're going to be participating in the regional meetings. More to come on that. Okay, I'm not going to wait too long. Oh, go ahead.
On that line, I'd like to set aside time at our next meeting to talk about whether or not we want to approach the task force about being a supervisory union as opposed to a school district. just in order to try and, I understand that if we just go as a school district, we don't have, we don't preserve anything, whereas if we petition them to go in as a supervisory union, we are more apt to be able to preserve more independence potentially, and just have speakers come in and talk with us about what the two different potential options are and what our board may want to do in that regard. And so just our next meeting, the meeting after, I know we have to do it quickly because the task force is on the move, and I understand that Twinfield just made their petition to be considered as part of a supervisory union as opposed to a school district. So I'd like to, for our next meeting, and set aside time to talk about that.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks, Chris.
Great, thank you.
Diane?
Well, along similar lines, what we talked about at the retreat is, it would be helpful to me to have the board have a conversation in general about the legislation, because again, yes, we could petition or put forth what that information is, but I think we also need to reflect as a board whether or not pieces of this legislation, regardless of whether or not it's been passed or not, what we see potential positive outcomes for our learners or negative outcomes. And I don't think as a board we've discussed that. And I think, as Chris is saying, now is the time to be communicating what we collectively as a board think.
Thank you, Diane. And I think what we said, and I have it in our calendar, we said that we would use part of our September 3rd, and I'm not trying to like completely bunch our September 3rd, but that's part of the reason we're also having the presentation from Tracy, you know, like it would just all follow that, and that is a time where we can have public input too, and a time that we can just concentrate on that as opposed to having a full agenda like today. So noted.
So,
Okay, moving,
This is an informational question. Does anybody know where a copy of Act 73 that is not 700 pages long
read
be obtained?
read your update. You can do a search on the
Yeah.
VSBA website. I'm happy to send it to you too.
Okay.
And there's a synthesized version, and you can even do it on your email.
Yeah.
Just say, you know.
Because it just, the one that I came up with was like 700 page. Is that the only version there is, the 700-page version?
That's the act. It didn't have 700 pages before, but once it became an act, there's all this like
Okay.
stuff that you would know better than me, being a lawyer, but there
Like
is.
War and Peace.
Yeah, yeah, and we presented the highlights too.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so
Thanks.
there's a webinar on it too. Patrick and Daniel.
I was just I found a summary today on the redistricting website. I didn't read the whole thing, but it didn't look like it was 700 pages.
There's one, I printed it out.
It is, okay.
Okay, Daniel?
I was just going to suggest, you know, if we were having a conversation where we were trying to sort out details and implications, whether inviting some expert help doing so might speed things up.
Yes.
Maybe from the School Board Association or someone who's been tracking this and has sort of the inside baseball perspective on like what the implications are and the state of play and so on.
Great, we will. Okay, now for real moving, does you guys need a little break before we move into the Bell operations? So let's take a 5-minute break. And we're, the next item on our agenda, we're gonna move right into board operations. And we need to authorize our superintendent to be our VSBIT proxy. So if I could have a motion for authorizing the superintendent to be our VSBIT proxy at the annual meeting.
So moved?
Thank you, Patrick, and second by Chris. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Wait, what was the motion? Sorry.
To authorize our superintendent, it's part of the packet there, is this form there, and we would sign it, and we're basically authorize Stephen, we give him the authority to sign for us at the VSBIT meeting. Any other clarifying questions? Everybody knows what that is, okay.
Sorry, who seconded it? Sorry.
Chris, yeah, so moved by Patrick and second by Chris. Okay. Oh, did I call for a vote? Yeah. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. I think I did, no?
Aye.
Yeah. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, so now we're going to move into review and adopt norms. We did not have a full board when we were reviewing norms our retreat. We took some notes on the norms, and there were some suggestions made. So I made a copy of the existing norms, and then I took some notes on the sort of the suggestions. I'm going to read those out loud, and then Zach also had sent us two, and we wanted to give him the opportunity to do that. So the suggestions range from allowing processing time between presentations and actions. We talked about that. A steering committee to help identify what it is for a discussion versus what it is for information. A reflection on whether debate is proportional to the workload. So having more time to allowing proper agenda preparation so that we would have more time for debate. And and you can correct me if I'm wrong here. And then rotating the responsibility for affirming our norms, right? So taking turns to read our norms through different meetings and having each other be accountable for each other. So holding each other responsible for the agreed norms. Those were the notes that I had. I was going to give the opportunity to, and Ursula, if you have extra notes, and then move it to Zach to share.
From those of us at the retreat on the community involvement during regular meetings, the board where the board listens to the comments that come in, it currently says, and ask clarifying questions, but that is not our current practice, and we had suggested eliminating that.
Eliminating that, yeah. Go ahead.
And then a couple, I think that one may actually have some overlap with something that came earlier. It's something for around accountability, for holding ourselves and each other accountable for being prepared, and having information we need to make decisions. And that came partly from from the fact that traditionally, we should be held accountable by our voters. And I can't think of a single school board member who's ever faced a competitive election. And so thinking about how to deal with that question. And then one about commitment to truth, I struggle a little bit how to put this in terms of what the board does, because it was actually largely coming to response to some issues with public comments. But sort of to put it in terms of what our responsibilities are for accurately presenting facts and research and not cherry picking. But then also to recognize when public comment violates those norms and to not be swayed by that and not just ignore that, since we have a norm of not responding to public comment. I think that sometimes can get lost.
So I guess I'll let other board members. So do you think it's addressed in some of the comments that we made, or how would you like to phrase it? We would put all of this in I know that we said and affirmed the board norms today, but today we were having extended discussion from our other, and you would receive, I don't think that we are completely ready to finalize it because we needed the input from the other members. So do you think it was gather in the update that I was giving before, or do you want a specific, how would you phrase it?
So I know I'd offered specific phrasing, and I don't, do you want me to just read what that was?
Yeah. So it was for the benefit of the room and the people in the audience.
So for accountability, I said, board members will hold themselves and each other accountable for being prepared, for understanding information necessary for decision-making, and for appropriately maintaining the role of the board and themselves as board members. And then for commitment to truth, I said, board members are expected to accurately present facts and research, not cherry-pick facts or ignore counter-arguments, and to make arguments in good faith. The board will recognize and not be swayed by public comment which violates this norm.
Patrick?
So I'm not comfortable with haven't being required to understand the information. I'm hope that I do, and I hope that if I present something that that somebody disagrees with, and it's within their rights as a member of the board to have an argument with me about that. But I don't think it should violate the norms if I don't understand something.
Chris, and then you can respond.
So I would
then
not
Diane.
support these, and the reason I don't is because you're saying that something that's untrue, which you may think is untrue, but it may be true to someone else. It's not like we're arguing about 2 + 2 is 4. We're arguing about the impact of a study, and I think you're referring to studies that were referenced during the our many debates. I would favor that if we're going to have a dialogue with the audience, because I think that would be more helpful to us. And asking if someone's making a statement, say, well, what do you base that on? What's your factual basis for that? Because then that gives us a source from that argument. Otherwise, these are just huge First Amendment suppression of dialogue, I think. And I think that would be difficult for a public board to be telling an audience member that you're not telling the truth and we're not going to listen to you, and we won't even know what it is. You say that you not be swayed by something that's not true if we're not able to ask, where'd you get that? How do you even know whether it's true or not? So I think that's very problematic.
Just, okay, go ahead, Zach, and then we have Diane and Ursula too, and it might help to that discussion. I also don't want it to be put you in a spot in a back and forth.
So I think one of the reasons I framed it in terms of not being swayed is that it still does give the commenter the right to speak to us, to say it, but it also speaks to our responsibility, and I think frankly to our responsibility to our other constituents. I think that we owe our other constituents our judgment. I think it's also important to recognize that yes, there are shades of gray, but we've also seen, frankly, some things that I thought were pretty black and white. You know, one of the studies presented us we were told there will be long-term negative impacts, and it was made very clear to us we're talking about this group of elementary school students. And the study said, in plain language, there were no long-term impacts on elementary school students. And the data presented showed no long-term impacts. I think we need a way of being, able to say, we are going to engage with these things when we're being told something that's literally opposite of what the substance of the study said.
So I think somebody suggested, maybe it was Chris, a summary of that, right? So sort of like a compromise could be that we incorporate fact checking, and we say, what are you substantiating that on, right? And so it's sort of like pared down to we're holding ourselves accountable to fact check.
Hold on, Chris, don't.
I'm not.
Yeah, so Ursula, and then I have Diane, and I have Natasha.
So I was wondering if we wanted to create a norm that essentially said we will hold ourselves to fact check and have critical conversations that consider counter arguments as well as the original argument or premise, so that we as the board are looking at both sides, so that we're asking ourselves to do, and we're going to hold ourselves to a norm of critical thinking on topics.
Diane, and then Natasha, and then I have a suggestion by hearing all of you.
Well, so I'm trying to find, and Lisa takes amazing notes, so I was trying to peruse them because we did have quite a long discussion about this at the retreat. There were several worries about trying to hold each other accountable, that's really, Robert's rules provides opportunities and guidance for how we do that. I'm a little bothered by the assumption that those who might vote contrary to something, it's because I'm not being a critical thinker. It's because I'm not fact checking. People can present whatever information they are. We need to trust each other that we are doing our roles and doing our jobs and doing our due diligence. Just because I might happen to hear more parts that fill in more of the puzzle does not mean I'm being swayed by emotion or I'm being swayed by not being a critical thinker. So language means a lot. And so I am I'm very hesitant to have that kind of strong wording dictating that I need to be a critical thinker, that I need to, that these are the certain ways that we do it, and that's what our job is. And I thought we had a conversation about that, knowing we needed to open it back up so that Zach could share his viewpoint and that. But I'm very concerned that it appears we have assumptions that people aren't being diligent, they aren't being critical thinkers, and they aren't doing our jobs of what is expected of us.
Thank you, Diane. Natasha, and then I just want to give you a possible, from listening to the retreat and listening to what you're saying, Zach, and what everybody's saying. Oh, and we have two other hands. Natasha.
Yes, I'm gonna first ditto what Diane said, because she just said that much more eloquently than I think I was gonna be able to express it. But the second thing I wanted to say is we also just need to be really mindful of language that we use, because the term cherry pick can be considered a racial slur. So I know that we use, it's common for us to use phrases and not realize the historical and racial connotation of them. But I just want to put that out there to make sure that we're aware that when we're thinking about language, that we are understanding the full impact of the kind of language that we're using.
Thank you, Natasha. Daniel, and then,
Caitlin, were you?
Yeah, Natasha, I just want to apologize for that. I didn't know the connotation, and so I will recognize that for the future.
I appreciate that. And again, like I said, I know we all use, there's a lot of phrases out there that a lot of us use today that we don't realize. So I just want to, so thank you for the apology, Zach, and recognizing that. I appreciate it. And again, just a note to all of us, just to be aware.
thank you, Zach. Daniel, and then Michaela.
Yeah, I was just going to generally agree with what Diane and Natasha and Patrick said, and I think that for me, it feels too situation specific to get into the how of the debate. I mean, norms for me are like broad ideals, and I think we could add a little bit to them about critical thinking and assuming good faith in debate. And I think also a commitment to responsiveness in public comment would be good. But I think things like fact checking that it feels a little small and too precise to be in our board norms, I guess.
Thank you, Daniel. Michaela, and then.
I guess in general, Diane maybe summed up most of what I was going to say. And then someone else pointed out that there are often multiple truths. So I just, I wouldn't really support that, how this is worded. I also feel a little uncomfortable with the negative connotation that it suggests that this is something that, some of us have not been committed to the truth. And just wanted to state that as well.
Amelia? And then.
I want to speak to kind of the dialectics of what we're dealing with here, kind of like the both and, right? If we were to adopt a norm that prioritizes fact-checking, it would go both ways, for whatever side we're dealing with, right? I don't necessarily agree with the exact language that you used, but I think that it's important to remember the context in which we're operating in this country at a time when more and more we're berated with incorrect, false information. And I think that fact-checking, particularly in the news, has helped people to make distinctions about what's informing their decisions. I don't want to oversimplify this and say that those that voted the way that they did with information that Zach referred to, right, based on the study, was wrong. I don't want to oversimplify the decision-making process that people went through, the critical thinking that was put into determining multiple variables and factors that informed. I think that particularly that study could have been something that we then looked at to debate. But it doesn't mean that the people voting the way that they did, that also agreed with that, were wrong. So I actually think that having something in the norms that encourages fact-checking on all sides, if there is something very particular that we could fact-check, that's not more subjective or philosophical or values-based, could be valuable for all of us. And I think we didn't cover the accountability piece, but there was, I remember a conversation about preparing for voting in a timely manner and allowing more time if that's needed.
Yeah, and we talked
And
about that,
then-
having
okay.
enough time on the packet.
Right.
So what I was gonna, I just wanted to have this time because we'd not had the time that allow everybody. And it just reminded me one thing, we also need to take a picture today, so don't go, I know that everybody always says no to a picture, but they asked me for an updated picture, and the only picture I have is from a few years ago. So even if we're not all here together today, I just wanted to break a little bit the tense here by reminding myself about that. But what I wanted to add,
We don't have enough people for a picture.
I know,
anymore.
it doesn't matter, because we will add some people, because that's what we always say, and then we don't do it. So otherwise, I am gonna have to put a picture of a previous board in, and that's what I've been asked for. It's missing in the board manual. But in any event, in the, not just the board, in the student manual, just how we've been doing it. So the picture is a few years old. But what I wanted to say is like this norm, what about if we make this norm, and I don't know, Zach, if this will, we can make it longer too, but we already, on the last norm, we say respect each other, listen, allow others to be heard, share concerns, assume positive intentions, be present, and celebrate success. If we were to add or change or add one more norm that says assume positive intent and focus on shared solutions. I know that it doesn't totally cover everything. When addressing challenges or missteps, we avoid placing blame. Instead, we approach the situation with curiosity and shared goal of improvement. We frame feedback in terms of what we can learn or adjust together. And we assume everyone is doing their best with the information and resources that they have. So it sort of is trying to incorporate, and I thought about this a lot, and I'm not saying that I'm not by any means a writer, it takes me a really long time to even just come to this. So it was just a way, and I know that it might sound like it is, and I see in your face, and now I can read you a little better, Zach, and I know that it sounds maybe too lofty and too up there, and for all this trying to compromise everybody and find the peacemaker. And it's not that, the norms are for us to aspire to, for us to, be better human beings that are interconnected and loving each other for who we are, not for who we want each to be, right? So I know that sounds, again, too lofty, but it is all about relationships, what we do here as a board too. So in my mind, it incorporates a lot of the things that we're talking about in softer accountability, for lack of a better word. But it doesn't mean that I don't know, I'm seeing your face and I know that you're not happy, but so.
Go ahead, Amelia.
I want to provide a little context, because Zach, you weren't there for the retreat, and we did talk
Yeah.
a good, length about this. And I think it seemed like we sort of reached consensus on the fact that we are holding ourselves accountable to be as prepared as possible. And if we need more time, we can advocate for that. And if that's not possible, then we can abstain from voting if we feel like we don't have enough information or we missed a meeting for whatever reason, right? So we're holding each other accountable, but we're holding ourselves accountable for what we're ready to do when, especially particularly as it relates to voting. And I do like that language a lot, because it does kind of redirect our attention on assuming good faith that we're going to do that.
So if you're okay, just by a show of thumbs, because we're not doing, I'm gonna, like I said, and Lisa put in the minutes, I took notes of the changes. We will put it in our next packet with the changes, and can I read that again and see if, because I don't know if everybody was able to, Daniel?
My brain does not hear something read and absorb its meaning at all. I have to see it in print.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, so we will put it in the
I was
packet.
going to suggest also that if anyone wanted to, like it sounded like Zach had wordsmithed a certain proposed addition, I think I would like to try to do something similar. And I think we're all better for this as a board, this conversation, but I don't think we necessarily have to add anything. We can, and we may choose to, but what am I trying to say? I guess, could there not just be one proposal for the amendments to our norms next time, but could anyone who is interested potentially submit something to you, and we could, by consensus?
Sure, we can do that. That's what the purpose of that's why I was not giving you a written updated one, because I thought that what we talked about in our retreat was like, today was the day to do that, and, we're taking notes, so and it was part of your packet, if you had a proposed, and I wanted to give Zach the ability to have it, but yes, by all means, if you want something submitted, send it to me, and we'll add it to the packet for the third week of September. And we'll try to affirm. I don't want to go too long without us having our norms. Julia?
Laura, could you share the draft of what you've just shared with us so that we
I can copy paste it on the
starting point?
chat right now.
Oh,
and
that's great.
Yeah, I can share a document that we're not going to put out.
Yeah.
But I can individually share it, but I can just try to copy paste it. Sometimes it lets me move things from my iPad. I just figured this out the other day.
That would be great.
But I don't know if it'll let me. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Look, it's amazing. Lets my cursor go from one screen to the other screen.
Magic.
Wait, 1 sec. Okay, so is that enough discussion? Oh, maybe. Discussion, Patrick.
So I had another suggestion, but when you're ready to move on from this discussion, I have another norm to suggest.
Oh, yeah, no, you can, we're in the norms part.
Yeah, so you're ready to move on so my suggestion is a different norm. I brought this up at the retreat, and it is that the title would be Address the Topic. The text would be, the board members will address the topic up for debate, not the people, and personal attacks are out of order.
Yeah, and is there anybody else? I think again, that norm is like, it's harsh instead of like, is there any other way that you could like phrase it? So it is more of a norm. I'm actually looking at Jen and Julia down there because they're so good about not that you're not, but it's just like things that we've done together over the years. And I feel like, like we already have some stuff about using I statements. So I'm wondering, Patrick, if there's a way to, because it feels like that norm is a defensive norm as opposed to a setting the tone norm. And I'm just saying that as somebody that in theory is in charge of setting the tone for the meeting so that we can all,
I think it would be helpful, again, to have these things in writing, because again, there's a lot of words that I'm not able to process.
Okay, and I have that one, but if you could send it, go ahead. Michaelin. And Julia, you have had your hand up for a little bit, sorry.
I was just gonna say that I think that a lot of that is covered under the respect each other bullet, and maybe like something could be added, like, try to, address the topic and not people personally or something like that, but I don't know that we need a separate bullet for that.
Thank you, Michaela. Julia?
I think I was going to say something along those same lines, except I think sometimes in our struggle to be, or our efforts to frame things positively, we skirt around what we really want to say. And what Patrick said, I think, is important to note. There have been times when I've been uncomfortable at comments that we've made to each other that have felt like personal attacks. And so to to state clearly, or to understand that respecting each other means refraining from doing that, refraining from tones that are unfriendly, is important. It's important to say that explicitly.
Thanks, Julia. So we'll include that one on the packet too.
I just want to respond to one thing that Julia said. I'm uncomfortable with the emphasis on tone. I'll admit that I'm the ones who sometimes wears my heart on my sleeve a little bit. But I want to be careful, and this actually came up at the table, one of the tables I was at the retreat in June. I think it's dangerous to have a situation where, because someone is emotional, we reframe a substantive critique, or reframe the fact that someone may have a very serious, very strong criticism on an issue as a personal attack. And I think that if we start to define that in terms of tone as opposed to substance, I think that can be a problem. I think that as long as we have space for really serious disagreement that's substantive, I think sort of the emphasis on making sure that we draw the line between substantive agreement and personal attacks is a good one. But I want to be careful. I want to recognize that it's, that in other contexts, I've certainly seen that used as a way of shutting down, debate.
Okay. Any other comments on, am I missing somebody? No. Okay. On the norms? No. Okay, so what we're agreeing in is that you're going to send me any norms that you have. I have all the notes. I've added to the notes, and we'll present that at our third meeting on September for affirming our norms at that time. We're going to move right into review and affirm board goals. I'm going to give this to Stephen.
Yeah, so I am sharing the board work plan. I received feedback from the steering committee was the one, just making sure that our focus areas of the board, and I'm just highlighting that part of the work plan, those are right at the very top there, is that we have focus areas, number one, of educational, academic, and social emotional outcomes. Right, so I added in social emotional outcomes that wasn't there previously, and that really puts us towards goals 1 and 2 of our strategic plan, so that focuses our work there. Number 2 is communication and engagement with the community, really a lot of goal number 3 in our strategic plan. And then I left number 3, long-term planning. It tends to cover all areas when we think about our work. And so from what I understood, is just making sure that we connect our strategic plan to the board work is going to be a big part of what we do as we move through the work plan as well. And that the focus areas are very broad, very general for us to look at. And that as we start developing what our board learning is, what our reports are, and all those, we'll just tie those more directly to some of the action steps of the strategic plan itself. And so I hope that kind of answered what I'd heard from the steering committee. And I just reiterate, the work plan is a living document. We will continue to update it and add to it as we go through the year.
Okay. So does that resolve the questions that we had? The steering committee had brought this up, and Stephen and I worked together to sort of just reframe it. And Diane, you brought it up, so I don't know if this is helpful. So go ahead.
Well, I think what would be helpful is if we're calling them focus areas, then we're reaffirming our focus areas. We're not reaffirming our board goals. Because those aren't goals. I mean, I don't see them as goals. And so that's where the confusion was. I was conflating the two, but I know that we had discussed the fact that we also wanted to work on our goals but I think that area was on the strategic plan. So that was the confusion I had. But then the other confusion I have is those aren't goals, they're focus areas. And so we should call it what it is.
I'm gonna let Ursula go and then.
I had
have a
also
comment.
raised the idea of making, I think, board-specific goals, like measurable action items, like we will engage in X number of board learning opportunities. We will, because these are ones that meet the district quality standards that we have to abide by right now. Those went into effect July 1st. And we will be given a matrix at some point where we have to essentially grade how we've done on that. And one of the items is creating goals, measurable goals. And I didn't know if we wanted to make measurable goals that fit into the district quality standards. Like, we will engage in X number of board learning moments throughout the year. Because then at the end of the year, when we're asked to submit the report to AOE, we can say, this was our goal and this is how we did, and it's a number and it's measurable. Stephen.
Could I make a suggestion that we use the rubric? I say that
Smart
hoping that
goals,
it comes
yeah,
out, because then it would give us like, what are the measurable things that we would be looking at? And I
I think that's
hesitate, but
brilliant, but I want
I
them
know.
to give us the rubric soon.
I understand what I'm saying there is that waiting until they give us something that we may wait for a very long time on is kind of a dangerous thing, but just,
I have opinions on that.
yeah.
Just leave it at that. Our focus area.
Our focus areas. Yeah, and we used to call them goals. It's on the agenda. So in order to continue our board work plan, and we can work on board goals, and basically what we've been trying to do is just the same as the superintendent, align our goals to the goals of the strategic plan, which is like, so the educational academy outcomes, then we put the board goal, and it's in Steven's computer, to that. So we could affirm our focus areas and then work on specific goals in those focus areas. Does that sound good? So could I have a motion to approve the focus areas for now so that we can approve our work plan? Does that make sense?
Do you want them as separate motions, the focus areas, or can we do focus areas?
Can we do it
and the
both
work plan?
together?
That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah,
but it
do it
sounded
both
like you were asking.
together. Yeah.
I move that we affirm our focus areas and our work plan as presented, understanding that it's a living document.
Okay. Second by,
I'll second.
thank you, Zach, Ursula and Zach. Any more discussion? Diane?
I'm just wondering about the dates, and I realize it's a living document, but the March dates still confuse me, and I'm trying to, so I don't know if there was clarity around that before we vote, or if I just
Which
know
March
that's
date?
Oh.
the March dates.
Mm-mm.
Because of, and also because of Yom Kippur, so October dates are confusing to me as well.
Yeah, but so right now what we're doing, Diane is just and that's why the March still has a question mark there. And we're doing those, we're doing those changes, but we're approving the calendar as a living document, like Stephen was saying, those two
Right,
changes.
so that was what my question was. If we don't have those solidified yet, that's fine.
It's
But
totally
if we had them solidified, I'd rather clarify it now. So the answer is nope, it hasn't been completely solidified yet.
No,
We usually talk about that, in like February-ish?
In
As
February.
we get close to when we're going to vote on the
we just
budget.
wanted to have a better
October,
idea.
has October been fixed?
Yeah, we're gonna fix the October. We're gonna.
So, I
fix
mean,
it.
that's round the corner, so that, it's not like I'm asking for something way
totally.
in the future.
Daniel.
Are we taking recommended changes or suggested changes to the calendar of the work plan? Is that
Sure, yeah.
germane to our conversation?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
one thing I don't see is any of the work of the configuration committee built into this, other than notes in the committee column that, you know, the dates when they might be meeting? But what we're talking about a combined board
Yeah,
and.
I had added already, but we didn't
Okay.
had it, we didn't had it, to be honest with you guys, we didn't meet until Friday is when we met with
Yeah.
Tracy. So it was, the packet needed to be out on Thursday, and so we didn't have time to.
Yeah,
to-
nope.
To do that. So we have the
Problem at all.
configuration committee meeting presentation there. The configuration committee hasn't met to do their, update the timeline.
So, but does the steering committee or do you, Flora, as chair, have an idea of like which of these meetings that combined meeting would land on?
We have it already, we said it today, September 3rd.
September 3rd,
Yeah,
okay.
and I already have a note in there, so configuration committee meeting presentation.
And
Does that overlap with policy?
are we, I mean,
No,
are we?
it's going to be at 6, and it's a combined meeting of the, so that we don't want to miss policy.
Gotcha.
And are we anticipating, maybe it's premature, but maybe it's not, to anticipate down the road from that meeting, any kind of action related to configuration changes around the middle school programming? We want to have that
Stephen,
on
we
our work
haven't,
plan? Is
yeah,
that-
we have, the configuration committee has its own calendar, as you know.
Yeah.
There, and we haven't blended those together. Yeah.
Okay. And the other last thing related to this is, have we set locations for the community meetings? And can we do so, or can we commit to do so by a certain date so that we can let those school communities know? Because we were talking at the retreat about
Potluck and-
sort of co-hosting and having them
We'll
sponsor.
do that by the end of the week.
I'm really interested in the food offered at each school.
Yeah, yeah.
in
I'm
turn.
aware of that.
Yeah. I think Stephen was just waiting for the school year to get started and them to be a little bit settled. They have their
We'll
open
get it
house,
done
and
by
we'll
the
get
end
it
of
done.
the week.
Yeah.
And let me know if I can help, because I don't want to create work for others, but thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Ursula?
Since we're adding and editing, December 17th should have a report from Ed Quality for post-secondary. And you can take the SLO report off of March 18th because it will be April 15th.
Yeah, I think, yep.
Thank you. Okay. Are we ready for a vote? Any other discussion? Daniel?
One other question is the public accessibility of this work plan. Do we publish it as just in the packet?
In the pack, it was in this packet today, and
Yeah.
it was, and it's posted on the website.
It is, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And
for work
to
plan.
the degree that it's edited over the course of the school year, is an updated version linked?
Yeah, at the bottom of it, we show that it's been updated, and we'll keep updating as
Yeah.
it goes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Any other? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh,
What are we going to do about the October 1st? Are we going to cancel the meeting, or does it move?
we're going to move the date. And Stephen is going to look at
Okay.
what is the best date for, yeah.
I would say the second Wednesday, but I'll double check.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to make sure I don't hit any other holidays.
Or
We made that
meetings.
mistake. Diane?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just, to me, there's a lot of unknowns about this, more so than just the usual kind of things. Like, I know March is not going to be decided, but Daniel just raised a couple of questions. There were a couple of other questions. So I'm just saying, personally, for myself, I'm going to abstain. So when you get to that, put that option out there. Again, not to be difficult, but I don't feel comfortable voting on something that might have a lot of changes. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and just a reminder to everybody, it's a live document, and it's going to change at every meeting. So it's not, and we constantly do the changes, and as we get into a configuration committee, it is going to continue to change. So completely understandable, Diane. Having heard that, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
We have one abstention. Thank you. All right. Now that I managed to move both, we're gonna, review the superintendent evaluation process. Steve, do you want to share your screen, Stephen?
I do.
The dates.
With a document that has
Yeah, so Stephen and I had the opportunity to meet today to
dates
change.
that are legit.
Yeah, and then,
Couldn't go back in time with the one you have. So, so we updated the superintendent evaluation process so that the dates, and we'll share this publicly as well, so that we have we just changed those dates that were on the right-hand side. Everything that's in the document stays pretty much the same. We will need to have a discussion about the climate survey. We had done the climate survey 2 years in a row, and we had, previous to me, we had agreed that we would be doing the climate survey every 2 years. And so I think we just need to have a conversation. There are two pieces of this, I think, that are important to the conversation. One, are we looking to do a yearly climate survey, which would be a change in process? Do we need a different climate survey to get at other types of questions? What are we really trying to learn from that survey? Because what we saw year to year, there wasn't much change in what we had. So we may want to look at, are there other tools that get at other information that we're trying to gain? And
So-
that's
yeah.
a discussion point, I think, for us.
So let's break the discussion in two. The dates that you see there allows us to have an evaluation on time and still finalize the evaluation before we have a new board or before we reorganize. So, and those are just dates looking at the calendar of when are we meeting and when the steering committee is meeting. Some of them are strictly to the steering committee and some of them are to the board. So on those, I don't think that we have much discussion. It's just they're the dates.
Yes.
The bottom, so that one should say 3/11/25. I have it up.
No, 26.
Sorry, 26. That's, sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We didn't see that one. Thanks. Okay. And then, so everybody okay with that? Those are just the dates and they correspond to the dates that we have right now, and we did not put a date in October, so should be fine. The next part is the climate survey that Stephen was talking about. A proposal could be that we use this year to develop a better climate survey because we know that the questions are not getting to what we really want to hear. And truthfully, we don't have a very good climate survey. Diane's got her hand raised, and we've done it 2 years in a row, so if we
I'm going to
could.
stop the share, so, okay.
Okay.
That would be,
So if we could use this time to have a better climate survey, and there's some tools that we could use for that. Daniel and then Diane.
I just had this same conversation at my workplace today. But one point that I think is worth noting is that there's value in having the same questions every year.
Right.
The longitudinal sort of data to see progress over time. I'm not wedded to having the same climate survey in this case, but and another possibility is like alternating like a traditional climate survey and then a second, more interactive survey on the off years where you talk about your response to the previous climate survey and you ask for feedback on that. Like what progress have we made in responding to what we learned from the previous survey? We think we've done this, this, and this.
That's a great idea.
And tell us, is that your perspective as well? Just an idea. And then you can maybe have some of the same longitudinal data preserved in the even years and then this other data set in the odd years.
That's a great idea, Daniel. Oh, sorry, Diane. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to remind us that the reason why we had done it last year and then we had said we would do it again, was because we didn't want to go 2 years into Stephen's time without knowing if there were some additional supports or something that the board needed to be aware of. And so I would suggest that we do the very same one again, because then we're comparing apples to apples and then potentially create a process. But we had added in that extra one as a baseline. And so to me, if we don't do the second one, it was I'm not sure what it was a baseline for.
Okay, thanks, Diane. So is the pleasure of the board to, what we could do is just, instead of, I had it crossed, instead of crossing at that, we just leave a question mark in the date specific, or are we looking to have a climate survey report in March? Sorry, Michaela, I'm like,
Thank you, Diane. Your memory is much better than mine. So with that context, I would advocate to run it again this year and have a discussion about how to move forward with it.
okay. So then we would potentially we will double check on the date, but for now, we'll just put 3/26. Is that, we just have to check the actual date. Does 3/26 sounds good? And now it's, what?
3/26 is when we do a summary evaluation.
Yeah, so it would be before the 3/11.
Yeah.
So between 2/28 and 3.
Okay, yeah,
and
well, it can't
3/11.
be 3/26, that's all I was.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah,
being semantic.
okay.
I like the idea of
And
giving the
26,
same
I
one.
meant the year, not the date, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the idea of giving the same one for that reason that we had come up with this as last year was a baseline. And I remember using the analogy of growth data like we use for ed quality. But I do like Daniel's idea of having that off year one go, hey, how did you guys think we did? Because we think we did this. I think it's a really good it's going to give us information on how our actions are being perceived, how Stephen's actions are being perceived by the public, even though we think we had a certain intent and impact, did it really?
So we can talk more about how we do that. For right now, what I'm trying to do is for us to approve the superintendent evaluation process so that we have a process and agreed upon dates with Stephen. So would it be okay to do that? And as we're starting to get a little closer to not like the day before. We will, I love planning, so we will have it done before. But are we okay with the calendar as it looks, the evaluation timeline?
Yep,
And the elements?
yep. I move, do you need a motion?
Yes.
I move that we adopt the superintendent evaluation process that we've discussed.
Thank you, McKellen. And thank you, Chris. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstention? The motion carries. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So now, who's going to go first to personnel? Oh, no, yeah, to personnel. We are tabling the other one. So who has it in front of them? Daniel.
I move that we approve new hire nominations for the 25-26 school year as follows. Soraya Pierce Spate for U32 World Languages teacher at 0.2 FTE. Elizabeth Lawson for U32 Special Education teacher. William Potterzay as a U32 Special Education teacher, and Ruth Ann Peterson as a speech and language pathologist for, I believe, Berlin Elementary.
Second.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Chris. All those in favor, please.
Wait, I have a discussion point.
Sure.
If this form has the name of the candidate at the rear as opposed to the start, and it's really kind of, you're reading all the credentials and then you find out who the candidate is at the end. So if we could get the name on the first page so we know who we're learning about, And if the salary would also be included, only on one of these documents is the salary for the person included, and it was for the speech and language pathologist. So those two additions, because at least I didn't see the name until the end.
The salaries are on them.
The salaries are on them, and then the
Are
names
they?
are above also, Chris.
What?
This is just the format of the document.
I see what you're saying.
I understand,
we
but it's
can-
just like, you're reading through all these credentials, and then it's like, oh, this is Liz.
Okay.
Anyway,
I agree in that it's also it's public record, and the legibility and comprehensibility is important as a matter of public record too.
So move formatting question.
Thank you.
Stephen has it and move the format up. Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? We have our new hires for 25-26 school year. And then we have a long-term substitute.
I move that the board approve as a long-term substitute for the 2025-2026 school year, Phelps Griffin as a U32 middle school math and science instructor.
Thank you. Second by Ursula. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. Now let's move into our consent agenda. I'm wondering if we could have a motion to approve the minutes. Julia, I'm looking at you. You just submitted.
I have a suggestion for an edit.
Yeah, so can you make a motion with an
Oh.
edit? Yeah, a
Oh.
motion to approve the minutes and.
I would like to approve the minutes. I move that we approve the minutes with the following edit. Does that work?
Perfect.
Okay, so the statement was made on page 46 that Julia Hewitt cautioned the board from assuming that the loudest voices in the room are the only ones with opinions. My memory is that I cautioned us against assuming that those with the loudest voices in the rooms don't have ideas we should take seriously. It's a little bit different.
Okay. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you. I cautioned us against assuming that those with the loudest voices in the room don't have ideas we should take seriously.
Thank you, Julia. Could I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Zach. Any other discussion?
Just a point of clarification, there are two different sets of minutes, and Julia in her motion didn't specify
Oh, okay,
which
yeah. So,
meeting we were approving minutes for.
It was the meeting of the last meeting in June. I think it was the 25th, is that right?
6/25, yeah,
The 25th of June,
the
yes.
25th of June.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes of June 25th, 2025, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries. And now I need a motion for the minutes of August 6th. Ursula?
I move that we approve the minutes of August 6, 2025.
Thank you. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Just gonna give it to Daniel. I know that somebody else also, oh no, Diane, okay, Diane, Lisa, did you get that? She was very disappointed. Okay, all those in favor, oh, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The board orders folder has been going around. I'm hoping that everybody got a chance, and then McKillen, do you want to go for it? Give it to Daniel. Give it, if you don't want to. To give us a total for
You
the board
go,
orders.
I move
Yeah.
that we approve the board orders, and then you give the total amount.
I move that the board approve the board orders for June 26th, 2025, to August 20th, 2025 in the amount of $4,770,241.46. $4,770,241.46.
Thank you, Daniel. A second? Thank you, McKellen.
Point to Daniel. Daniel, you said from
Excuse
June?
me.
Excuse me, you're right, from June 22nd to
Okay.
Yeah.
August 20th. I didn't just notice the third one. Sorry.
Okay.
That was,
Everybody clear? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 I,
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The board orders had passed. The future agenda items, we had a couple. We were going to talk about Act 73 and its implications for us, and potentially, the next meeting is September 3rd, and we're going to have a presentation from, and you can, I'm just going to try to summarize what we know already. Is that okay, Patrick?
Yep.
And then we are also having a presentation by Tracy. And then we have our work calendar, which Stephen is going to pull out for me of what we have there on September 3rd also. While Patrick talks, I can pull it up.
Yeah, along the lines of the Act 73, I think that it's important for us to think about what we do well as a district, and given any merger or change that happens in the future, what do we want to get in the marriage? What do we want to keep going that we do well for whatever system happens next? And I don't think it's a short conversation. I don't think it's one that happens at one board meeting, but as we're talking about the implications, I think it's important for all of us to think about that.
Thank you, Patrick.
Would it make sense?
Can you raise your hand, Chris, okay, now, Chris, you recognize? Speak.
What?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would it make sense to actually have a specific date, a specific column for that, every meeting that we have? Because if it's such a big question?
I think that would be great, yeah.
Yeah, so let's do it. Let's have another category of Act 73 implications for our district and what we do well and what we want to preserve.
Okay. So we already have for the next meeting, and we'll add it. What we have in our agenda for September is you would have a report from the Finance Committee, because we were not able to finalize that there. The steering committee also meets on September 11, and Ed Quality would have its meeting, so we would have an update.
We will have a meeting on the 11th, and so by September 3rd, we will not have that yet.
Okay. The same with the Finance Committee is not to meet until September 9th. So all of this is for our following meeting on the 27th. So Policy Committee would be the one that is meeting on the same day as, and we are not changing that meeting. Policy is meeting first, September 3rd, yeah. Okay. Then we have board reflection, which we all agree was important. Sorry, I'm standing up my back. Board reflection.
I just wanted to celebrate the community events calendar. I think that's really great, and I would love such a thing to sort of exist as a living calendar all year long. So celebrate whoever put it together.
Beck.
It's like J-term for grown-ups.
Yeah.
Thanks to Beck.
Yeah. Any other reflection? Amelia?
I wanted to thank Jen and Julia again for your presentation and all the hard work that you've been doing. It's pretty amazing to learn more about your work, so thank you.
Okay. Anything else? I'm looking at people online too. They seem to be good. Okay, thank you for joining us remotely. We're going to move now into public comments. And my comments at the beginning, that time limit is strictly enforced, apply now too, so that your very hungry board members can go home and eat. No. Any public comments? I don't see any hands up. Oh, actually, most people have left. Oh, no, Lila's still here. Okay. At once, twice, three. Okay, no public comments. So now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. And I am hoping that you guys could just gather up in the back and we'll take a quick picture. I know that we're not all together, but So,
I move to adjourn.
thank you. Second by Ursula. So moved by Amelia, second by Ursula. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Bye.